Hello, everybody. Crazy wet hair. Just got back from some crazy soccer. 8:27 p.m. Probably my latest pod ever. I am nothing but stubborn. The streak is alive. Episode 115. Here we go. April 25th. On today's episode, finally, I'll read you some poetry. We talk about Magic the Gathering, and we talk about the Switch. Nintendo Switch 2 once again. Okay, let's get into it, guys. I found this really cool book called Firefly July, and it's a book of short poems that largely center around nature, by some artists or poets. They're artists to me. They're by some poets I knew, some I didn't know. I'm gonna read you a few of them, and we'll go from there. First one's called A Happy Meeting. Remember, these are very short poems, but very meaningful. Rain meets dust, soft cinnamon kisses, quick nosy courtship, the marriage mud. Raymond Soster wrote that. Spring, rain beats down, roots stretch up. They'll meet in a flower, by Carl Sandburg. Window. Night from a railroad car window is a great, dark, soft thing, broken across with slashes of night. Beautiful. Another really short poem. What is the wind? What is it the wind has lost that she keeps looking for under each leaf? Thought that was beautiful. And I do apologize. In my busyness of the day, I got some of these poems and I haven't attributed them to the proper authors. I will rectify that at some point. Let me read you just a few more. Here is the namesake of the book, Firefly July. When I was 10, one summer night, the baby stars that leapt among the trees like dimes of light, I cupped and capped and kept. J. Patrick Lewis. And I couldn't read you poems without one from William Carlos Williams, whose poems just stupefy me to this day. They're almost too meaningful, and sometimes I struggle to understand them, but I find myself coming back to them again and again. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. So those are some poems for you. And what I liked about this book, and I will post a link to it, is that they're short, but they're meaningful. And they talk about everything from mud to flowers to lightning bugs to rebirth to wheelbarrows, right? And so it was just a fun mixture. And like I mentioned before, it is National Poetry Day. It is a medium that is probably woefully underappreciated. And so I wanted to just highlight a few poems that I found enjoyable. There's always more money in the banana stand. Okay, so that is a reference some people will know to a very dysfunctional family show, and it is the title for the Nintendo Switch 2 release. It was released last night at midnight. Why are we releasing things at midnight? I don't understand that. It was total mayhem. Customers reporting long lines, broken websites, and canceled orders. It's $450. It went online, like I said, at midnight. So it sold out before most of us even woke up or went to bed. It's a weird time. Well, I don't know if this midnight release crap. GameStop waited until 11 p.m. to open orders, and there was an onslaught, right, of last-ditch hopeful buyers who had missed the midnight and had to wait until the morning. But anyway, this is a huge. It was lately we've had big things, right? The Minecraft movie was bigger than expected. The Switch 2 pre-release, it sold, so 2.2 million units were pre-sold in Japan and the US. And to put that in context, the original Switch sold less than 500,000 units in the first month of sales in 2017. So once again, there was a lot of like, will this be a thing? Will people be frustrated by the high asking price for the model, for the unit? The answer is no. Despite all the talk of tariffs, cutbacks in consumer spending, and price hikes, including Nintendo's breaking the software price ceiling. I mentioned this, right? The new ceiling is $80 now. We have never, to my knowledge, and according to the internet as well, we have never had a normally released game basically not a huge bundle with DLCs. A normally priced game has never broached $80 until Nintendo broke that price ceiling. Despite this, millions and millions of people are willing to spend $500 for the bundled Switch 2. And obviously in eBay, if you look right now, you're going to see them for $749 and up. So, who can put a price on fun? Apparently there's no price we won't pay. I do think, though, if you think about it logistically and reasonably, I've had my Switch since, not 2017, but I've had hundreds of hours of it. And if you do the math, $450 is actually not a terrible deal. And I think what Nintendo has always been really keen on and very smart is they're tapping into the nostalgia. They're tapping into the fact that they're selling this product to adults, people like me, who spent part of their childhood glued to a keyboard or a controller and are still playing adult video games and with more disposable income, and they're willing to pay this price. Games from The Last of Us to the Mario Brothers movie and the game are cultural touchstones, they're conversation pieces, and the money's going to follow. So I'm not surprised the Switch 2 has done so well in pre-sales. I just don't know why we decide to sell things at midnight and do all these big pre-release at midnight. To me, that's just silly. So anyway, little story for there. And while I was reaching this, while I was researching this story, it came upon once again Magic the Gathering. This is a card game that is very near and dear to my heart. I played this for many, many hours as a youth. It has been purchased for a couple years now. It has been part of the Hasbro portfolio of games and toys, and it is way bigger than you think. There's a lot of people that know Magic the Gathering. Essentially, it's a card-based game where it's kind of complicated. I'm trying to figure out a way to make it simple, but it's a fantasy-themed game invented by a mathematician, a PhD mathematician named Richard Garfield, in 1991. It's maintained a devoted following. You play mana, land, then you can cast spells. There's creatures, there are abilities, there's instants, there's interrupts. It's fantasy. There's some Lord of the Rings elements that have been brought into the game recently. There's orcs, there's wizards, there's zombies. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But in the game's third decade, it's still growing. It's having another one of these moments. In 2022, Magic earned $1.1 billion for Hasbro. And guess what? That was Hasbro's first billion-dollar brand. And yes, this is Hasbro. This is huge. Not Mattel. They do Barbie. But Hasbro does Transformers. Their portfolio is massive. And Magic the Gathering, a card game targeted to young adults and older peoples. It's the biggest part of their company. It is the strategy game. Okay? It's known as the most computationally complex real-world game known in literature. And part of the genius behind Magic the Gathering is it was invented by a mathematician who understood game theory, he understood probability and chance, and he built this really tight, not ironclad, there are still annoying rules and weird things they're tweaking, but he built a really beautiful game and a beautiful system. So, sorry, that was a big pause. I'm just looking at my notes here. Unlike poker, Magic's challengers don't begin with a 52 card deck, right? You build a deck. At this point in time, there's over 29,000 cards to choose from, right? It's 3 decades on. There's different sets. There's different rules. There's for casual and competitive gamers. And so basically, it's always interesting to me to really dig into just how big Magic the Gathering is, because for a long time I played it as a child and a lot of time elapsed and I kind of thought to myself that this game wasn't big. But year over year, save one blip, I think in 2023, year over year it has grown and grown and grown and grown, and it is massive. It's no longer just played by people who hang out at libraries and card shops. Magic the Gathering is the real deal, and it continues to just evolve and grow. They've had some setbacks, but they've learned from them, and they reset really well. And there was a book by a guy named Nate Silver. He wrote On the Edge, The Art of Risking Everything, and he actually marries the poker boom over the last 20 years and the people that are playing poker at a high level, tech workers, venture capitalists, all kinds of people who are very much into gambling and risks. And he mentions that Magic the Gathering has done a lot to help these individuals understand probability, risk, assess threats, and the confidence to take big chances to achieve big payouts. He says Magic the Gathering actually is a game that is so beautifully rendered and made that it hones those skills and also teaches you to consider problems from multiple angles and see different solutions using many different tools. I hadn't thought about it that way. But anyway, Magic the Gathering, it's growing. It's a beautiful game. If you don't know it, that's okay. You might not know it, but it is bigger than you think. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up because it has been a day and I am ready to relax. It is a Friday night. It was a rainy day of soccer. It was a mixed bag, if I'm being honest with you. I've read you some beautiful poems. Maybe I'll do some more poetry before the end of the month. I have a few more days. We talked about the Switch 2 and how there's always money in the banana stand. There's always people who are willing to pay essentially whatever is asked of them. We don't know what people are not willing to pay because people keep buying things like the Switch and the PlayStation 5, and they'll buy the PlayStation 6 and the 7 and the 8 and the Xbox Series 18,000 billionth, right? There aren't that many people, there are not that many competitors in the next-gen game console, and so prices will continue to rise. I'm not happy about that software price ceiling risen to $80, but that's just me. Anyway, and then we talked about Magic the Gathering. It is bigger and better than you think. Check it out sometime. The most computationally complex real-world game known in literature. That is quite the statement. Anyway, be above the line. Be good to yourself. Be in nature. Be with your family. I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.